And we're back.
Woohoo!
Welcome back to the Auto Authorities Podcast. My name is Jay Grossman. I'm the founder and CEO of iAutoAgent.com. And this is my co-host, Mr.
David Marks with Quality Auto Repair and Tire.
Welcome. This is part 2 of a really big topic, and that is electric vehicles, also known as EVs. And we have so much to talk about today. We're going to end this with a bang, talking about EV vehicles, the pros, the cons, maybe some things you didn't know. Stick around because we've got some good stuff to give you. Are you ready to do this, Mr. David Marks?
Absolutely.
Have you ever felt like you were taken for a ride when buying, selling, or repairing your car? Well, not anymore. I'm Jay.
And I'm Dave.
And this is the podcast that tells you what to watch out for, whether you're buying, selling,
or repairing your car.
With 47 years of automotive experience, we are the Automotive Authorities. This podcast is sponsored by iAutoAgent. We're real estate agents for cars.
And Quality Auto STL. Trusted services with no surprises.
Boom!
Booyah!
Welcome back to the Auto Authorities Podcast. My name is Jay Grossman. I am the founder and CEO of iAutoAgent.com. What does iAutoAgent.com do, Jay? Well, we are real estate agents for cars. We will help you sell your car at no cost to you. We will market, we will list, we will show the car on your behalf and handle that sticky money transaction. And nationwide, we will help you buy a car. We will handle everything from A to Z. We will do all the heavy lifting. We will deal with the dealer for you, or a private owner, of course. And you don't have to move forward until you approve the deal. And this is Mr. David Marks with
Quality Auto Repair and Tire.
Trusted services with
no surprises.
And we are here today talking about all kinds of wonderful stuff. But before we get going, we always love to thank our sponsor, Podcastify.me. That's Podcastify.me. They are an amazing company that they will make your podcast shine like ours. And you don't have to do anything other than show up. How cool would that be, huh?
Awesome.
Yes. And if you were just joining us and you are on Facebook, please go to our Facebook group page. It's a free page. Not only can you watch our podcast live Tuesday at 12 p.m. Central Time, but you can ask questions. All those burning car questions that you have, you can ask right there. Tell your friends, tell your families, share it. And if you're on YouTube, you can watch us recorded. And if you click the notification button in the right-hand corner, you can be notified of all of our podcasts and subscribe. Subscribe to the Auto Authorities YouTube page. And we have our web page, theautoauthorities.com. That's theautoauthorities.com. We are getting a lot of people contacting us through this page, and you can ask questions through there as well as watch all of our past podcasts. We've been doing this for over a year and a half, every single week coming to you. All right. Oh boy, where do we start, Mr. David Marks? I'm going to let you start this time because I think you have something that's kind of burning, don't you?
Yeah, I do. It's with fleet companies. So we service, Ford has come out with their Ford Transit Pro EV. I haven't heard anything out of GM or Ram. I still call it Dodge. Ram as far as electric vehicles for contractors, okay? Because the big boys and Mercedes-Benz, they got the vans, they got vehicles specifically for contractors. When I mean contractors like HVAC, plumbing, carpentry, flooring, etc. So we service 3 companies: a plumbing business, an HVAC business, and a flooring business. Okay. And the plumbing company's got about 15 trucks. The heating and cooling and the flooring, they got about 10 vans, out there. And all these guys let the employees drive the vehicle home when they're done for the day. So that way the next day they go straight to the job site. Okay. This is where EVs don't work, because none of these owners are going to pay for a charging station at the employee's home when they can quit the next day. Remember, employees don't have any skin in the game in the business, and an employee is not going to pay for a charging station at their house either. They're not going to do that. And the other thing is, even if the employee had a charging station at their house, what happens when that employee forgets to charge overnight? They wake up the next day and they got to call the boss. I forgot to plug in. What the hell do we do? Because with what these fleet companies do, or what these contractors do, they give the employees a gas card. When they need gas, they just pull up, fill up, and they're on their way. And somebody on LinkedIn, I was talking about this on LinkedIn, said, oh, they can just leave the EV at the job site. That ain't going to happen, because that's just a sitting duck for thieves to break into one of these vehicles and steal all their tools. Remember, these guys buy their own tools. The owner buys their own tools. Like I buy shop tools. My technicians buy their hand tools. Same thing with carpenters. Same thing with heating and cooling. Same thing with plumbing. That's how the trades are set up, folks. And these guys aren't going to leave a vehicle there with 30, 40, who knows how many $1,000s of tools just sitting there. No, they're not going to do that. So anybody that wants to get an EV for the contractors, how are you going to get over that hurdle? Who's going to pay for that? Because the employee ain't going to pay for it and the owner ain't going to pay for it. And the only way I see EVs working on a commercial side is if a guy is a one-man band and he's got a handyman service and he can drive home, because he'll remember. I don't see this scaling at all. That's a huge hurdle to overcome.
You have brought up such a good point. And when you were telling me about this, I'm like, man, we've got to let people know about this, because I'm going to say this, even the one-man band handyman, they're not buying $30 and $40 and $50,000 cars. They're buying $6,000 vans that mom and pop used to use as a Dodge Grand Caravan, and they're throwing their tools in them.
Right.
And this is going to, boy, that is such a good point. And when you were telling me about this, I was like, wow, I bet a lot of people didn't think about that. And think about, if you own a business, are you going to let your employee take home a $30 to $40 to $50,000 vehicle, and then you're going to just go ahead and put a charging station in their garage for them?
No, listen to this, though. It gets better. So I split a building with my landlord. He's got a heating and cooling company. Mm-hmm. I'm in Maryland Heights. He lives in O'Fallon, which is about 30 miles away. He lives the closest to his building, and he's 30 miles away. Same thing. I got an HVAC guy. They got people that live an hour away, an hour and a half away, because that's where they can find employees. So it's not like these guys live down the street either from the facility. No, same thing with the plumbing business. So I don't see how this is going to work on the commercial end at all. And then you got the range. Yeah, I just don't see it, because these guys are on the road constantly, driving from here to their house. They're all on the road constantly.
What do you think about also, like, I think a big topic is a lot of the raw materials that are used to create these EVs are controlled by foreign countries that don't quite like the United States.
No.
China.
Yeah. Duh. There's a
Russia.
Yep.
I mean, we are really betting on a lot of things right now. And I know there's a lot of hype, and we're going to really dig into this for you guys. Really hope that you get a lot of really positive information here. But like, those are things that are not being discussed, and those things need to be discussed.
Yeah, I brought it up several times because I follow Ford on LinkedIn, and Bill Ford and Ford Motor Company and whoever's in charge of it. And I've made comments. What are you going to do about this, Bill? What are you going to do about this? And it's crickets, because they don't have an answer. These contractors are not going to pay for a charging station and the employee's home when they could quit the next day. They're not going to, and the employee going to pay for it. Why? They don't own the business. They're just an employee.
They're not thinking through it as like they didn't think through the stupid chip shortage thing. You would think that like these manufacturers really, you would just think, man, really smart. They're multi-billion-dollar companies. And like, they're not thinking through this. It's kind of like starting a business and saying, yeah, I'm going to go start a business with no money and no resources. Let's just go ahead and do that.
Yeah, because I can't be the only independent repair shop in the country that has fleet owners that let the employees drive the vehicles home. I'm not the one out of the thousands of shops that has fleet owners. That I'm the only one. So this is going on nationwide.
Yeah. What about too, once you get the batteries in here, one of the things that I'm seeing is the mileage capacities are so freaking limited on these batteries right now. I mean, what? It's currently 300 miles up to 600 miles right now. And they're saying like 1 year, or I'm sorry, in several years, you could put 1 million miles on one of these things before you have to replace a battery. But what about the right now? Like, I don't want to get in my car and go, what, 300 miles or 600 miles? And what happens, and I think I told you this story before, didn't I, about like how much battery it takes up when you actually have something on in an EV. See, that's the thing is like, we're not driving around in St. Louis with 100-degree heat with our windows down. We've got this little thing called the air conditioning on.
It's cranking right now.
Yes. And did I tell the story about my mother-in-law, how we...
Yeah, we talked about that last episode, but we can recap it. We can talk about it briefly.
For those of you who didn't hear the last episode, I'm just going to give you the cliff notes. We had a Tesla, and it was literally 100 degrees. It was like July-ish, June of 2021. And I was like, oh, let's go visit the new house that we're building. And me and my family and my 80-year-old mother-in-law get in the back seat. And we're driving, and we had 80 miles, which had plenty. I mean, we're not that far away from the new house. And all of a sudden, it showed like 30 miles within like a few miles. I'm like, what? And literally, my son's freaking out. He's like, oh my God, we're going to run out of charge. Not gas, but charge. And it was just an absolute mess to try to find a charging station, which we talked about in the last episode. You can't find freaking charging stations. So the other issue too is these batteries, well, they say that they're good for 10 years. Who really knows if they're good for 10 years?
We don't know.
No.
Because the only way these guys will figure this out, I mean, it's research and development. It's build them, throw them out there, and once the big boys will figure it out. Because when I mean the big boys is, we'll just use the Ford F-150 Lightning, for example. Now that that's starting to be on the road, give it a couple years based on what comes back to their service departments when people complain. Then they'll know how to reevaluate. But if they're going to want to, what they've already built or what they've already designed, and they're going to want to make that run, then on the second run, they'll fix stuff. That's how it works.
So true, Dave. And what other people don't know too is I always have this rule of thumb: never, ever, ever buy a vehicle the very first year it is available. Why? Because you are the laboratory test rat. What do I mean by that? They want to see all the mistakes that they've made, and you get to spend the money, and you get to be the one to make all the mistakes and teach us all. For those that are waiting, it's kind of like buying the cell phone right when it comes out. It sounds so really cool until you've got oh gosh, man, this thing is really, oh man, this thing has a lot of bugs. It's shutting down on me. Yeah. What do you think the electric car is going to do when it hasn't been on the market but a couple months?
Yeah. What happens when one of them gets hacked too? Because that happened to Chrysler early on. You know what happens because people will do it. If you got an EV, and somebody hacks it and your wife and kids are in it, what do you do? And they've got full control of the vehicle.
And now you brought up a whole nother can of worms here, Mr. David Marks, because we're dealing with computers, and computers do get hacked.
Yep.
And what do people usually do with computers to prevent them? Yes, they have to spend money. IT companies might actually have a new niche where it's like, we will protect your car from being hacked.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I love my 2002 Ford Ranger. It's none of this applies. You can't steal it. You can't hack it. None of that stuff. I love it. No bells and whistles. Nothing. Just plain Jane.
I have a friend of mine named Kevin, and he has an IT company, and I'm going to tell him about this. I'm like, man, you should have a niche here, because now we got to figure out, who's going to hack. And
I mean, because nothing's hack proof. I mean, Equifax got hacked.
Everything's been hacked.
Yeah, exactly. So
I got to think.
Nothing's hack proof. I mean, this is stuff that people need to know about. People need to think about.
So we're about halfway through our episode, and we have a lot more to share with you. But one of the things that I wanted to share is that, like, to replace a battery right now is $5,500 to put a battery in one of these things when it breaks. So the question is how many batteries do you need in a lifetime, and what is the cost of that? 1, 2. Some people keep their vehicles 10, 11, 12 years. Not all, but a lot of people do. And they're the ones coming to see you right now that are trying to make their cars go as far as possible so they don't have to get into this crazy world of buying a car.
Yeah, the average age on a car now, I believe, is like it's about 30. It's just under 13 years, like 12 years and like 9 months or something.
Oh.
It's between 12 and 13 years is the average age. I mean, I have a 20-year-old pickup that I have no plans on getting rid of. Me and my wife have a 99 F-250 with 260 on the odometer. I drive to Texas now in it because we take, if you take care of them, you can get a ton of miles out of them and fix something when it breaks.
That is very, very true. And I guarantee you, if you had that same car in a electric car, you wouldn't have it most likely because you would have had to put money into it. And you're like, I'm not putting that kind of money. I'll just sell it.
Yeah.
So what about the charging too? Like, one of the things that we encountered again in our little expedition is it took an hour and a half to charge this freaking vehicle from like it was dead, but literally. And we were sweating our asses off, and it was like in the middle of a parking lot somewhere in a grocery
in a back alley.
It was. Well, it was like it's weird.
Batteries, the worst thing to do to a battery is fast charge it. Like when we charge car batteries, ideal condition is put it on a 2-amp charge, 12 volts overnight. So the battery slowly absorbs the charge. If you fast charge a battery, that's going to depreciate the life cycle of it. That's why Tesla says only do the supercharger so often, because they know that.
Oh.
Yeah, you can. The worst thing you can do to the battery is fast charge it. I think it's like I forget what it is, but it's not. It's only so many times you can fast charge it. That's fast charging a battery is not good for a battery. That's one of the worst things you can do to a battery is fast charge it because it won't absorb the electricity.
Well, when
it absorbs it better when it's slower. That's why they say charge overnight.
When you think about it, when you are going on vacation, you got to do a lot of planning. I mean, like you're going to have. I mean, depending on how far, of course, where you're driving, but even just driving 5 hours, you're going to have to charge the thing up again, most likely. And are you going to sit there and wait an hour and a half at who knows where it is? It's like some charging station,
The Wall Street Journal took a Kia Electric from like New Orleans to Chicago and back.
Yeah.
And they spent more time charging than sleeping.
Wow. Holy cow.
Just to see what happens. Let's just take one and do it. They spent more time charging than sleeping.
That does not sound like fun to me.
No.
And what was the situation too? You had mentioned on the Chevy.
The Chevy Bolt, yeah. GM's recalled. It includes the 22 model year. They've recalled them all because there was a condition with the battery company, LG, something out of South Korea. Yeah, they recalled every Bolt they've ever made, and it applies to 22-year model years. And they told people, I remember reading this in the Wall Street Journal, just leave it outside, don't park it inside.
Wow.
Yeah, because of battery fire.
Didn't you say that you have to have a special, like that's going to be another thing. It's like there's going to be different types of charging for the different brands of vehicles, if I understand correctly?
Yeah, Tesla's got their own. And I've heard that Tesla's going to open theirs up to, they're going to make a standard cable. So like right now, so when you go, like every car's got one, the onboard diagnostic connector for the check engine light, that's standardized from 96 and newer. I don't care if it's my old Ford pickup or a $1 million Rolls Royce. If it's built for U.S. production, it's got a standardized plug to connect for emissions. They'll do that with these chargings. They won't let these guys do whatever they want. The Society of Automotive Engineers will step in and say, we want a standard plug across the board, flat out, or you can't sell for the U.S. market. That's coming. I can't see them not doing that eventually.
Kind of like what we have, when we plug our stuff in there.
Yeah, it's going to happen. I mean, they've already done it with the diagnostics for us to hook up our scan tools. There's a standard connector. It's a 16-pin connector that every car has one, 96 and newer. They'll do that for the charging. Or they'll make like two because they'll want people to have access to these.
So the other thing is the model choices are so limited right now. And it's like, oh, we got this coming and this coming and this coming and this coming. Yeah. But if you talk to any dealership and you're like, hey, I want that new electric. It's like, oh, yeah, that one. No, that's not going to be available for over a year. And you don't even know. And truly, they're just saying that. They don't even know if it is going to be available. Everybody has all this speculation and this hype. There aren't enough of them available to give us a sample of like what we're really in for.
No.
And like it goes back to the raw materials from China and Russia. It's like, if we can't get those things, how are we going to like build these vehicles? It's just,
I have no idea, Jay. I have no idea.
Like things that like we could talk about this all day long. I'm gonna share a story with you, and this is something that a lot of people don't realize. So, like for instance, on my cell phone, your cell phone, we have the ability to upgrade our phones by over-the-air updates. But so we had I'll give you an example. Ready for story time? We haven't done
absolutely
story time. Okay, story time. We had a 2014 Tesla Model S, and beautiful car. I mean, it had every option you can possibly think of, except for one option: autopilot. And I'm going to tell you this. We had that when we were selling it through iAutoAgent.com. We had so many people interested in this. And the moment that they found out that it did not have autopilot, they were like, thank you. Guess why? Because it could not even be upgraded. It was one that came in. So there were two. So there was a model, basically a 14 and a 14 and a half.
Oh, okay. A model mid-year change.
Yes. This was a 14 before they allowed the autopilot. Nobody wanted it. It was like literally the most expensive paperweight you ever could imagine. It never sold, and nobody wanted it. They just didn't. If it didn't have autopilot, I don't want it. Didn't matter what the price was. Yep. So my question is we're talking about all these over-the-air updates. How much stuff is really going to be upgradable? And if it's not upgradable, what does that do to the value?
Or what's it do to the cost? How much does it cost for that upgrade?
Right. And then we had talked about that. How would you like to pay, a monthly subscription for heated seats? No, thank you.
Oh, listen. Well, never mind. This will be off topic.
Go ahead. We got a few minutes.
Oh, well, I saw this on the Wall Street Journal or it was on Automotive News. GM for their Buick and GMC lines want every new one to be sold. You're required to pay a $1,500 subscription fee for OnStar for 3 years.
Required.
Yep.
So why don't they just put that in their pricing then?
I have no idea.
I know exactly why they don't, because that would be way too transparent. These manufacturers, it's so frustrating. Don't even get me started. When you watch these advertising, and I'm not talking about dealerships, I am talking about the manufacturer. I'm going to use Lexus as an example. When you see these, you can get a Lexus ES.
You know what we should talk about, Jay, is we got it here in our notes, is the tax that EV owners will pay to help pay for the roads, the federal highway system.
Save that for the end, because we're saving it for the bank. So if you're listening right now, we've got a absolute bombshell that I guarantee you nobody ever thought of. This is the one. I want to save that for the end.
Okay.
But listen to this. So Lexus, you want a Lexus ES350? That's, I don't know, almost a $60,000 car. You can get that for $399 a month, a lease. Wow. Sounds great. Where do I sign up? No problem. We just need $8,000 down plus tax, title, and license. What's my real payment then? Well, if you don't have $8,000 down and you don't want to put your you have to put your taxes in. So yeah, you're looking at about $800 to $900 a month. Wait, what? How is that equivalent? Do the math. That's the problem is there's so much non-transparency. You would think like the manufacturer would say, okay, for $1,500, we want $40,000 for the card, and then you just pay us $41,500 and you get OnStar. But no, we want to throw that at you at the very end of the transaction once you're all excited about the car. Anyway, don't get me started. What about like the environment too? Like everybody's like, oh, this is so much better for the environment.
No, it's not. It
No,
takes
it's not.
fossil fuels. It takes fossil fuels to mine raw materials. It takes fossil fuels to transport them from the mine to the battery factory. The battery factories were not fossil fuels. The electricity, people got to remember, the electric grid hasn't changed since Thomas Edison illuminated New York City in the late 1880s. That's what, 140 years ago? I mean, we still have power lines. That was from Thomas Edison.
Well, and that makes a really good point too. So when you have like a subdivision and let's just say everybody has EVs and we're all starting to charge our cars at the same time, just like you said, Dave, we're not going to be able to have that quality charging. It's going to be lagged. There's going to be a lot of strain on it. And there's going to be a lot of frustrated people when they can't charge their cars right.
Right. Because it takes fossil fuels to run the power plants, coal, nuclear. I mean, we're so fossil fuel dependent and it's not going away anytime soon.
No. All right. Let's do the bombshell here because I don't think a lot of people realize the next topic we're going to talk about. Let's end with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Take it away, Jay.
No, you go.
Oh, okay. So when we buy gas, that all doesn't go to the oil companies. A big chunk of that pays for the roads, the highway system. Each state, there's federal tax for the federal highway system and there's state tax for the state highway system. That's what pays for the roads. Well, EV owners, guess what? But the tax man's going to come for you because guess what you're driving on? You're driving on the roads. You got to pay just like everybody else. And sometimes it's a lot more than us gas drivers at the pump. I mean, Missouri's talked about like 20 times higher. Now, I don't know how they're going to collect this, or I don't know. I guess it registered. I don't know how they figured anything out, but all these states are going to want their tax money because they know you ain't just because you ain't buying gas doesn't mean you ain't got to pay that tax.
That's a big, big one. I don't know if people realize how impactful this is.
No, they don't think about it at all. They just buy one. They're like, what? Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Huh? Oh, shit. This is as affordable as I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
No.
And when you take everything into account, it's less than gas as far as the initial, but there's a lot of
back end expenses that people don't think about.
There is, and I don't think it's as pretty as everybody says.
No.
I am not a big fan of electric vehicles, not as of yet. You may pull me to that side at one point, but I'm not there yet. I don't think we as a country are there yet by any means. And I think there's a lot of speculation, and I think we're way early. I think that just sums it up.
Yes, sir.
Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us with the Auto Authorities podcast. Please share this podcast with your friends and family. We want to hear your comments. What do you think about the electric cars? Put the comments below. Let us know. Hey, maybe you don't agree with us. Maybe you do agree with us. Do you have an electric car? What's your experience? Are we making all this stuff up? No, we're not. But we want to hear your opinion. Go to the AutoAuthorities.com. Go to our website. If we get a question, we're going to answer it for you. Other than that, I don't have anything else. Dave, you have anything else?
No, sir.
Everybody have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next time.